Hey there, Salesforce admins. So buckle up because today we got Andrew Russo on board, who's not just managing the Salesforce org, but is essentially the captain of a one-man cruise ship. That's the analogy that we made. So you like that? I said on board. No, but seriously, this guy is juggling a lot of flows, customizations, and data, much like we all are. And he's steering the ship solo. So, single Salesforce admin. Now, in today's chat, we're talking about everything from taming data gremlins to rolling out Salesforce Knowledge. But big is what he found impactful at Dreamforce this year, which was Salesforce Foundations. And we're also getting some insight into how Andrew's planning on keeping his org ready for the next wave of AI. And of course, we reminisce a little bit about Dreamforce. And it wouldn't be a Salesforce Admins podcast without food. This time we're talking pizza. No surprise. So before we get Andrew on, though, make sure you're following the Salesforce Admins podcast on your favorite podcast app or wherever you listen to podcasts. That way, as soon as a new episode becomes available, it will download. So that being said, let's get Andrew on the podcast. So, Andrew, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Well, it's been a little bit since you've been on, so let's refresh everybody's memory. What have you been up to, and what do you do in the Salesforce ecosystem?
So right now my role is as the Salesforce architect, admin, developer. I mean, we're a small company at BACA Systems, so I'm the solo Salesforce resource. So I kind of play a lot of hats, and I manage our entire org. So that's kind of the main thing that I do here. We have a lot of flows of customizations. So I've kind of been trying to learn a lot about that and how to manage our complex org.
Yeah, captain of the ship, which is what most admins play.
Yeah, it's a big ship though. It's challenging.
I know. Yep. Well, the whole goal is to grow the ship, and then maybe you get a fleet of people to help you.
It started as a rowboat. Currently, it's like a cruise ship with one person in charge of it. And cruise ships are hard to drive with one person.
They could be, yes. But you need to have, resident comedian, house band, buffet. I'm sure those are all fun analogies to things. Before we go down the cruise ship line, that's for another podcast. Let's talk about you were at Dreamforce, and I think a few Salesforce admins were at Dreamforce. If not, they definitely saw some of the content that's online. I'd love to know when you get back from, was it 3 days of Dreamforce now, and the content that you're a part of and the notes that you've taken, what are some of the things that you do to think about what's next or to put into action some of the things that you learned?
Yeah, I think when I'm there, really the big thing is I like to take high level notes when I'm there. If you get too in the details, like trying to take notes, it's hard for me at least to go and actually take actionable things. So generally what I've learned to do is I take some of the high level notes of key areas and then I go back to them. So when I'm there, I'm able to just focus on the content and the learning and connecting with other people in the community. And then I go back to the content that I thought was really helpful and I look at it. But for me right now, like if I think about some of the big takeaways, one of them was data quality, and really getting everything in shape is like probably the most critical thing that you can do for like an existing org like us. Trying to fix those type of things that are just foundational to support all of our future things we're trying to do.
Yeah. I mean, I know anecdotally from seeing some of the session data, all of the sessions that were about data and cleanliness were really well attended. And it makes sense, right? Because good data in, good data out, and now good data for AI to consume.
Exactly. I think that's probably one of the biggest drivers is looking forward of the AI. And it's also thinking about like, what can we do to position ourselves to be ready for generative AI and how that will play a role. Thinking about like on our service side, one of the big projects that became probably one of our top projects, we're going to be rolling out Salesforce Knowledge. Like I think was probably one of the biggest takeaways or actionable things that I now am. That's my big project for this fall is to get our knowledge base for service up and going to help our customers.
Yeah, that's no small feat. I feel like that's building your own library.
It is building a library, an organization system and structure for a library, and then getting everyone who hasn't gone to the library in years to want to go to this library. And
Free
authors.
library cards for everybody.
I mean,
Exactly. Oh, yeah, I know authoring. Oh, fun times.
that's probably the hardest part is getting the content created.
Hmm. You mentioned you're an admin of one, and I want to get in some of the stuff that was announced at Dreamforce because that's why I had you on. But one other thing that crossed my mind, for admins of companies that are smaller, and you everybody defines their own size. How do you see AI and some of the new like Agentforce features rolling into orgs like that?
I think like for me, I mean, I was actually lucky to be part of some of the pilot stuff that happened. And like one of the biggest ones, which it sounds crazy, but like the formula one that's on to help you with formula fields. So you could do it when you're making a formula field for like a row level summary for reporting, as well as on the admin side to just explain a formula. It sounds so simple, but like the amount of effort that has saved me from finding like those pesky, you're missing the parenthesis, or you had like a curly comma or curly like the curly single quote instead of it being a straight single quote. So it doesn't work. Like those kind of things, having it where it just fixes it. It's like the quality of life features that for an admin that are amazing.
Yeah. I never thought about it that way. That's a good perspective.
Especially if you think about copying and pasting. That's where it's like challenging.
Well, that's 90% of how I wrote all my formulas. Copy and paste. Somebody else, please write the formula. Okay, there's about 90% of the formula that I need. Let me just plug in the fields that it makes sense to. A lot of the stuff, I mean, obviously Agentforce was the big headliner at Dreamforce this year. But you pointed out, you really see also kind of, the not off Broadway show that Salesforce talked about, which was Foundations. So tell me from your perspective, why as a Salesforce admin Foundations was so big at Dreamforce this year for you.
Yeah, I think Foundations, I mean, when I was watching the keynote, it was like almost, I think kind of the last, I think it was like soft announced just right before Dreamforce, but then during the keynote, it was also kind of re-announced it. I think that what was announced of what's included with it, having some of the different parts, like we're a small company. I don't really have the opportunity to just go try out some of like the big, more expensive or larger features. I don't have the ability to just, oh, well, let me go try and do some like pilot. Like it's kind of challenging. So having access to a try before you actually go fully configure is really helpful for us to be able to look at where can we grow and move to with the platform.
How do you feel? I mean, are you looking at kind of data integrations across marketing or commerce or service? I mean, I know you mentioned knowledge.
Yeah, so like the having knowledge now is definitely like a big thing. So some of the little parts like sales and service cloud that were really heavily overlap, but just a little couple things now that like it's kind of more unified to be one thing, it makes it a lot easier. It's like now we have access to knowledge for all of our search results. So it kind of enabled that project, which we need to support generative AI as we go into the future too.
I suppose we jumped maybe a little bit of the cart in front of the horse. For you, what like if you had to describe Foundations to another Salesforce admin, maybe they didn't hear about that. How would you describe it?
All of the features that you wish you had 5 months ago that you now have. Just the little bits of like the features. I think that's kind of how I look at it. As like they're kind of the features that you wish you had, but you would have had to go buy multiple cloud to just get the small little piece that you kind of wish you had.
Gotcha. Well, that sounds awesome. So with it can be like I remember sitting in Dreamforce keynotes and hearing sometimes about features that we were using, sometimes about features that we weren't using, with multiple features being announced as part of Foundations. For you, how did you kind of prioritize your one admin, your one org? Obviously, you just can't like go and it's like a gym, locker and turn all the light switches on. how are you kind of prioritizing what features to use and how to roll them out?
Yeah, so for us, it's really about looking at where do we want to be strategically. So I actually have like a Lucid chart, which I
Ooh.
took one of the, I think like on the architect website, they had like a roadmap one. So I kind of just
Uh-huh.
copied that and then I just changed it a little bit and did a lot of copy paste and kind of modified it. So it's just a really high level view of like what we're doing as a company with Salesforce, just so that I can kind of also show like from a strategic point of view when people have these requests of like, oh, well, I want this. Like, okay, but here's kind of what we have. We don't have like an unlimited bandwidth here. So
Yeah.
is that more important than all of these? And then it kind of helps to keep requests that don't really make sense or align with the company goals. So that kind of became still the guiding light to it. And I think that even after Dreamforce, that didn't change a lot because it's still what are the company priorities. We're not just trying to go implement features because now we have them. It has to align with what our company goals are.
That makes sense. That's definitely also helps you prioritize, right?
It helps me prioritize, and also it helps me keep focused on what's the important thing that we need to do to keep our business growing overall.
What are you so, I realized this when I was kind of sitting down, like, what are we going to talk about? A lot of the times we talk about the benefit to the admin because that's the person listening, right? Like, what's it matter to me? But so often, everything that we implement, everything that we do is on behalf of a user because we know sitting in their chair what their pain points are. How for you as the admin looking to communicate some of the benefits of Foundations to your users?
Yeah, I think it's looking at kind of where the challenges are. An example for us that's like relevant, why I'm also really excited for it, is today we use an external marketing email sending tool that we just
Ah,
take exports of emails, put them in, send email list. So like on the sales side, we use sales engagement to send kind of like the like sales cadences, right? Just like a very
sure.
small tree one just for like trying to like drip information about a specific product.
Yeah.
But we don't have like we're not doing full scale marketing across the board. But for that use case today, right now, we're sending it out like that. But with Foundations now, we can use the marketing emails that get sent, and it's essentially can do exactly what that is, but just from Salesforce. So we can skip the whole having to send it out. Then the emails will log in Salesforce. Our sales team can see when they were sent. Right now, the ones that are sent as like bulk mail don't show up in Salesforce. So like just that little quality of life thing, and it's just easier overall. Like that's kind of a big thing, but we don't have a strong use case to go get like a giant marketing automation system because honestly, we don't have the people to go generate all the content for that. Right.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think it's always, you never have to apologize for the size that you are. I think that's, oh, we're not a big organization. That's okay. You're the size that you are, and you're also proportionate. Probably you always need a couple more admins, right? But you're proportionate to the size that you can support. You don't need to apologize for, well, we're not this massive $10 billion email monster.
It would be nice, but also I feel like if I got a bunch of emails from us every day, I would kind of be a little just thinking like from the customer point of view, who like I get emails from vendors and stuff like that all the time. I'm like,
Yeah.
Lululemon, how do you get me an email every day, 5 to 6 p.m. that
uh,
actually has, but like I look at them like I should unsubscribe, but I also am like, okay, well, I haven't yet, but I get them
no,
every day, 5 to 6 p.m. So
sure.
somehow it's enough that, so it's like, how do we become the company that can give information that's valuable enough that people don't want to unsubscribe because they find value in the content, but also be able to manage doing that?
I know I've got a whole folder of emails that's like that I don't want to unsubscribe because, that one time that I need to get something, chances are they probably will have emailed me maybe a 20% off code. I'm just cheap enough that I want to keep those emails going to get that 20% off. You mentioned marketing and email and stuff like that. That makes you think of the App Exchange, and the upgrade includes access to third-party extensions through the App Exchange. Are you looking at ways or maybe things you could do now with that?
Yeah, I think for us, like a couple of the areas that we're kind of excited also to extend out is one of those is on like collecting payments and stuff, right? We've
Mm.
got Sales Cloud, we've got Service, which means we've got revenue, but we need to collect payments.
Very important, right?
It is very important. Today, right now, we like when they want to take a payment, they just log into this separate system. They type in the card number, right? The customer calls over the phone, they type it in, they process the payment, they download the PDF receipt, they send it to the customer, right?
Ugh.
So, like, it's not a good experience. It also takes time. But if we could send like a link
Sure.
that then the customer could put their stuff into themselves, and maybe we include that link on the invoice ahead of time so the customer could self enter it in and we don't even have to have that phone conversation because it's just not a good experience. Like, that's kind of big. And we can do that now.
Yeah, and I mean, you think of that person's time. Rarely are they hired to just do that. There's also other things they need to do, but they've, just so happens. I imagine maybe over the lunch hour, they get busy because that's when everybody calls in to make their payments really quick because they have to talk to a person.
Exactly. Like that, the exact problem. Like they're busy working on sending out like invoices to some of the other customers, and like now a phone call came in. You can't hold off on a phone call because you don't want to put a customer on hold or have it just ring continuously. So like you have to pick up that, like trying to prioritize ways to not have to do that type of thing. Also from a customer point of view, if I got a link that I could pay with Apple Pay,
Yeah.
or that I could put a card into myself, and when I've got an iPhone, it auto fills my card that I have saved. That's a lot better of an experience.
Yeah. I had no idea, not that I want to turn this into an Apple Pay podcast. About a year and a half ago, finally, the Luddite in me got to using Apple Pay. And since then, the frictionless payment method of Apple Pay has caused me to buy a lot more things than I probably should have.
I think, like, honestly, for me, if I think about like as a customer experience, everyone hates paying utility bills, right?
Yeah.
Became a homeowner. I have utility bills that come in. The easiest one I have to pay that's not like an auto pay one, because auto pay is kind of scary to an extent. You don't realize how much money goes out. It's nice.
Yeah.
But like the one that I have is the water bill. It literally has a QR code on it. It comes quarterly. The QR code, you scan it with your phone. It opens. You can click Apple Pay. You put in the amount, which you just type the amount that's on it. You click pay and it's done. It's the easiest thing I've ever had. Like, that's the kind of experience we want to deliver as a company.
Yeah. Well, congrats on being a homeowner. That's a big step.
It is a big step. Midwest homeowner life.
Well, did you just become a homeowner over the summer?
No, it's a year now.
Okay, so you've been through a winter, so you already know.
Oh yeah, we had a nice storm last winter.
The water bill isn't the scariest thing that'll come in.
No, the water bill is not. When you get sod bill after that with the water bill is. Also, when you have woods around you, and I have cornfields that are relatively close, that's really fun when there's a big ice storm.
Yes.
And you go to Harbor Freight to get a generator. It's the neck move that I did during that.
Yeah. Those battery generators, I will tell you, I stumbled across one of those over the summer to go for a lot of the shows that I do. And man, I really like that, having that in my house. I got one that's just big enough that'll run a refrigerator for a day. So it's, I hope I never have to use it, but knowing I have it, it's peace of mind.
It's peace of mind. Exactly. Going back into the Salesforce world off of our Midwest.
I mean, every now and then you gotta, it's like a commercial break. You gotta have.
Well, if we're not commercial, I know that you don't unsubscribe to the Casey's Pizza email coupon.
I don't. And they use Salesforce too.
You got to be careful when those come through.
Yeah. Well, speaking of which, they have a jalapeno popper pizza. And if they listen to this podcast, if you listen to this podcast and you get Casey's Pizza and you get the jalapeno popper pizza, which say that 5 times fast. Let me tell you how amazingly good it is when you put it in your fridge right away and eat it the next day. Don't eat it hot. It's okay hot. It is amazing as cold pizza because then the cream cheese sets up. Aces.
Honestly, cold pizza, like for me, I'm a big fan.
Well, yeah. I mean, I will always eat cold pizza, but this pizza in particular, Andrew, I'm telling you, it is life-changing because it tastes like a jalapeno popper. But when you get it and it's fresh and it's warm, it just doesn't work for me. I don't know. Also, I want them to bring back their bacon cheeseburger pizza because that was the best pizza they ever had.
That does sound good.
It's amazing. It's amazing. And they put some sort of brisket thing. They keep dancing around, not bringing back the best pizza they ever made, which people would argue is the taco, and their taco is good.
They might be listening and it might come soon.
I hope.
Give you a wish.
Oh, God. But anyway, we should talk foundations. Back to the show. Ladies and gentlemen, now resuming progress, already in progress, whatever. I mentioned a lot about foundations. What haven't I mentioned that stands out to you as like admins should know about this?
I think one of the biggest areas that admins haven't all been able to fully touch, like I think if I step back and look at like what was the most impactful thing at Dreamforce, I think when people, like I had another admin who was talking to me, like they did the Agentforce Launchpad, and they had to like, that experience of sitting down and do it, you're just talking with your voice and it generated an agent for you, a proof of concept of it. They said that alone was worth going to Dreamforce.
Wow.
So like that type of thing, I think that's like Agentforce, as much as it's like, okay, it's like, okay, well, is it just hype? I think it has a lot of utility. Even yesterday, I was having a conversation with someone, they were asking, and I didn't know exactly the context. They had asked, like, is there any way to like chat with your knowledge-based documentation? I was like, I think I just said, what do you mean, ? And then it was elaborate, ... Like, what do they mean? And they were like, well, like if you wanted to just like have a conversation with it and ask questions about how to set stuff up. And I'm like, that's called Agentforce.
Yeah.
Like that, it can do that. Like that's a feature, like that kind of the whole point. It's like, think about the customer experience of it. You're like, well, I don't have a thing. It's like, okay, your customer, say that you're selling software. Your customer installs the software, like a trial version, wants to get up and running. Like they want to help setting it up. Do you want them to have to call and wait on hold possibly, and then not buy the software because they're like, hey, I'm going to go to this other company who's got it, that you don't have to wait on hold talking to somebody. Like that type of experience, it starts to make a lot of sense.
Absolutely. It's a good example. As we wrap up, you go to a lot of Salesforce events. How do you, like, as a Salesforce admin, if you had advice for other admins out there looking at kind of the breadth of what is available for them to go to? Because there's user groups, there's world tours, there's Trailblazer DX, there's obviously Dreamforce. How do you kind of plan out? I know you go to a lot, but strategically, if you had to give admins advice on what events should they go to, how should they kind of plan their year so that they stay up to date, they stay knowledgeable, they stay connected?
If I was going to pick, like, I'm going to say one Salesforce official event, right, that Salesforce hosted. If I had to choose one I would probably say Trailblazer DX, honestly. If you're an admin, that's the one to be at. Dreamforce has a lot of announcement stuff, but like it was a lot more technical, I will say, this year than ever in the past. But Trailblazer DX, it's a smaller event. It's a lot more manageable to go to. You're seeing a lot more. It's admin focused. The admin is the heart of Trailblazer DX. But the other thing is like go to a local community event that's there, or even just Trailblazer community groups are a great resource to go to. And for me, when I go to the events, like I said, kind of at the beginning, it's like full circle. When I go, I focus on high level, and then I come back to the content after. Like I'll take the notes and I'll try and go back to it. But I really like just connecting with people. I think the friendships and that you build in person are the most valuable thing out of going to different events.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Andrew, thanks so much for coming on the podcast and opening my eyes to Foundations, because I know I was knee deep into Agentforce at Dreamforce. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. It was a really great time. And also pizza. I think I might get pizza or Culver's.
I'm telling you, if you're a regular listener to the podcast, the food diversion is going to happen at some point in every episode. I've had people call out the fact that I've talked about Casey's Pizza before. And if you don't live in the Midwest, it's literally mind-boggling for people to be like, that's gas station pizza. Yeah, it's gas station pizza at another level. Also, their breakfast pizza, in my opinion, now that they got rid of the bacon cheeseburger, their breakfast pizza might be the single best pizza on the planet.
I just realized something. There might be food diversions, but the caramel apple spice or pumpkin spice, or what is it? Do you remember? I'm thinking back, it's October though. And it's like the exact month.
Yeah. I mean, it's pumpkin spice season right now. My mom's huge into pumpkin spice. And I think growing up, I had too much pumpkin pie as a kid. I can't do pumpkin pie.
Was a PSL pumpkin spice latte or permission set license?
I can do that. I know, right? Both. And that's the one exception that I make to the ick of pumpkin spice is I do like at least one pumpkin spice latte, which sounds weird.
I didn't say I haven't had one in like probably 3+ years.
Well, when you have one, you're going to realize the mistake you've made by not having one.
I know, but
I
might get one tomorrow.
You should, along with some Casey's breakfast pizza, because that sounds amazing. Literally, all the time. Andrew, thanks so much for being on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
So that was a fun conversation with Andrew. I hope you enjoyed the episode. He really seems to have his head wrapped around a lot of different things and is really paying attention to both keeping in sync with features that Salesforce is rolling out, along with the needs and direction that his organization is looking for him to go to. And of course, I warned you, if you're hungry, I'm probably not hungry no more. You're going to order pizza tonight. But if you're looking for some tips, not necessarily pizza tips, although there are a few podcasts with recipes in them, you can find all of that over at admin.salesforce.com for everything that you'll need, including a full transcript of the episode. And if you'd like to get more information, follow along, connect with other Salesforce admins, be sure to join the Admin Trailblazer group in the Trailblazer community. Of course, all those links will be in the show notes for the episode. So with that, I think we've covered a lot. We've laid a good foundation, as you would say. Until next week, we'll see you in the cloud.